Breaking news! Earthquakes rock the San Francisco Bay Area. Rebuilding's going to be tough when there are aftershocks. Welcome to Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Melissa Delp.
And I'm Kevin Delp. Aftershock is a 3 to 5 player game. Now, there may be rules for 2 player as well, but we haven't seen those rules. This is an area control game with some simultaneous selection and some negotiation. It's designed by Alan Moon and Bobby West and published by Stronghold Games, a division of Indie Game Studios.
Now, this game's actually coming to Kickstarter soon, so let's look at the prototype components.
There's a main game board, planning boards and player screens, cards, meeples, houses, bridges, coins, a die, and tokens.
The game is played over 3 rounds. Now if you have 5 players, that's only going to be 2 rounds, and your goal is to gain points by controlling certain areas at the end of the rounds.
There are 4 phases to each round. Phase 1 is acquiring cards, Phase 2 is populating and planning, then there's the resolution phase, and the last phase is where you score.
For game setup, players will get some cards and money along with their starting components. With 4 or 5 players, you use the San Francisco side of the board, with fewer, the Italy side. During the first phase, players simultaneously decide which cards from their hand they want to keep. You pay for them, and then place the other cards face up in front of your screen. In turn order, players can use one of their buy tokens to purchase another player's face-up card. You pay that player. This process continues until all players pass. Then each player can keep, for free, one of the unbought cards in front of them.
Next, you populate and plan. All players reveal their area cards and place the number of meeples shown onto those areas.
Then players reveal the remaining cards and gain the corresponding tokens, like bridges, meeples, aftershocks, and influence tokens. Simultaneously, everyone secretly places their bridges, meeples, and aftershocks on the areas they want on their planning board.
Then, in turn order, players reveal their planning board and place the tokens on the main board. Once everyone has placed their bridges and meeples, you resolve aftershocks. You roll the die to determine how many meeples in the city are shocked. For big and mega aftershocks, you'll add to the number. The player controlling the aftershock decides which meeples are shocked. Those meeples have to move out of the city. The players who own the meeples can move them across connected bridges. Their own bridges are free, but they have to pay to cross other players' bridges. If they can't move across a bridge, the meeple has to go back to the supply.
After all of the aftershocks have been rolled and resolved, then players move on to the scoring phase. You'll put your screen back up and place all of your scoring markers onto your planning board. Your markers have to go on different areas. The only exception are the influence markers, which can be placed on another scoring marker. After all the tokens are placed, you'll simultaneously reveal your planning boards. Any area that has at least 2 tokens among all the players will score. Just follow the points allocation for the area. The player who scores the most removes a meeple from the area.
At the end of the round, the money in the bank is evenly distributed to all the players, and the player in last place gets a free Aftershock token. At the end of the game, players will get an extra point for every $2 million that they have, and then whoever has the most points wins the game.
So I find it interesting that the game is only 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a shorter game that way.
But it's not, because each of those phases in the round are so meaty with decisions to make. Which cards am I going to acquire? Where am I going to put my secret stuff? And then there's a lot of negotiation that's going on, especially in that scoring phase when you're trying to figure out where to put those tiles.
Yeah, a lot of player interaction, especially with when those aftershocks happen. You know, you're going to be moving your opponents out of certain areas, and then you may also want to move your own meeples out of areas if you're not doing well.
Yeah, that's where the bridges come in. They are so important and strategic in this game to allow you to move between those areas.
When you lay out your bridges, you do have to complete the whole section, like in Ticket to Ride. But the cool thing is you are allowed to demolish your bridges from another area to add to the one you're building, if that helps.
So the decisions of which cards to keep in that first phase are pretty interesting because you do have to pay for whatever you decide to keep, and then you put your cards out, so there may be cards that you don't really want other people to buy, but they're a little too expensive for you to buy, so you might take the risk of putting a high cost card that you want out, hoping no one buys it, so you get it for free at the end of the phase.
I've done that a couple times and it's worked, but I've seen other people try to do it and I've tried to buy them. One thing that I find interesting is the money. It's limited in the game, so everyone starts with an amount of money, and then that's pretty much it for the game. But at the end of the round, or at the beginning of the new round, any money that's in the bank gets divvied out equally among the players. Now, just a reminder that these are prototype components. The coins that you see here will be about a ½ inch smaller, and the bridges will be wooden instead. I think the illustrations and the art fit well into the theme here in Aftershock.
We found this game to be pretty easy to learn and teach because it has those 4 phases which are well structured and you just follow through each round.
Now, one of the co-designers is Alan Moon, and he designed a pretty popular game, Ticket to Ride, but I would say Ticket to Ride is a much easier game.
Right.
It's a gateway game. I would say, what do you think, like a medium weight game for Aftershock?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely more in the medium complexity category. One of the strengths, though, is that there's a lot of simultaneous play and decision making, so it doesn't feel like there's a lot of downtime during the game. Even if the rounds kind of go a little long, you're engaged throughout.
Yeah, and the game is replayable. There is different sides of the board for different player counts, and of course you have the negotiation.
Right, the negotiation aspect takes the strategy beyond just the game state, what am I doing, but also that social aspect of playing the other players and trying to get them to align with your goals.
So if this sounds like something you would enjoy, then check out Aftershock from Stronghold Games, coming to Kickstarter. We'd love for you to subscribe to Tantrum House.
Loosen up so it doesn't sound reedy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Knocking the table.
I'm not knocking the table. You're knocking the table. I'm not even touching the table. Who's touching the table?